Yes.
Only purchased.
Yeah.
Public hearing started. Today is, well, 14th. God, I'm living like in the last week. Today is June 14th. It is 9:30 a.m. I call the public hearing for the Hudson Industrial Development Agency to order. Notice of the public hearing specifically was about proposed financial assistance by the City of Hudson, IDA. Notice was given that a public hearing pursuant to Section 859A of the General Municipal Law and Section 147F of the IRS, or Internal Revenue Code of 1986 will be held by the IDA on the 14th day of June at 9:30 a.m. locally at the CEDC offices here at 1 Hudson City Center regarding the consideration of proposal of financial assistance by the agency in connection with the acquisition, rehabilitation, and equipment of an existing multifamily housing complex located at 46 to 48 North Front Street, also known as 119 and 20 Columbia Street here in Hudson. Providence and Skylar Apartments Preservation LLC has presented a verified application on file with us dated April 26, 2023, requesting our assistance with the acquisition, rehabilitation, and the equipment of an existing multifamily complex, which we'll refer to from now on as the project, consisting of the acquisition by us of a title to do a leasehold interest in approximately the 1.2 acre site with existing improvements here in Hudson, and approximately a 2.5 acre site with existing improvements in Hudson for the addresses of 46 to 48 North Front Street, also known as 20 and 119 Columbia Street. Also, the rehabilitation of approximately 151 unit housing complex and the acquisition and installation in and around the improvements of certain machinery, equipment, and other items, tangible property, with an estimated cost of $22,793,136, also known as the project costs. The application proposes the granting of certain financial assistance with respect to the foregoing. The IDA is considering whether to undertake the project and whether to provide exemptions from taxation with respect to the project, including 1, exemption from mortgage recording taxes with respect to any qualifying mortgage or other documents, and if any, recorded by the agency with respect to the project in the office of the county clerk's office of New York. Or 2, exemption of the deed transfer taxes of any real estate transfers, if any, with respect to the project. And 3, exemption from sales and uses taxes relating to the acquisition, renovation, and installation of the project facility. And finally, 4, an abatement or exemption from real property taxes levied against the project pursuant to a pilot agreement. And 5, the issuance of revenue bonds by the agency for which the interest on which may be exempt from taxation. The company proposes to preserve 151 units of existing housing as affordable to persons and families of low income. If the issuance of the bonds is approved, an interest in the project facility will be acquired by the IDA, and the IDA will lease with an obligation to purchase or sell the project facility to the applicant company or such other person as may be designated by the company and agreed upon by the agency pursuant to the agreement between the company and the IDA, where the company will be obligated to the agency to make payments pursuant to the agreement for the repayment of the bonds. And 3, the bonds will be secured in such a manner as the IDA, the company, and the purchasers of the bonds shall mutually deem appropriate. The bonds shall not constitute a debt of the state of New York or of the city of Hudson, nor shall either party be liable. The proposed financial assistance does deviate from our UTEP policy. The agency will follow the procedures for deviation from such policy set forth in Section 874, subsection 4 of the Act prior to granting any financial assistance. The IDA has not made a determination yet pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, also known as the Seeker Act, regarding the potential environmental impact of the project. The agency, us, at a said time and place here all persons with the view on the location and nature of the proposed project or the financial assistance being complicated by the agency in connection with this proposed project, also known as why we are all here at this moment today. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for public comment to the materials that were placed online for public review. Sir, yeah, gentlemen, is there anything you want to add for the record? Please just identify yourself, please, for everyone online.
You want to probably come up here just so the mic picks you up.
Brian Rarican, our reservation. So we're looking forward to a successful transaction. So, any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Yeah, Alex Becky from Brown Weinraub representing them. You know, that we're really excited about the opportunity here to preserve this housing in the city. This is, you know, we're coming up on its regulatory framework, and we're going to be looking to extend that to make sure that this is affordable for many, many years to come in the city, and really also provide substantial rehab to these buildings for those tenants that have been living there, and give them new bathrooms, new kitchens, new updated electric and systems to make sure that those buildings are safe and well suited for their living purpose.
Don't forget the better energy efficient.
And better
We talked about
energy,
that, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
and the better energy efficiency. So this is an exciting project for us.
So again, we'll hold the line open for another minute here for public comment. We need some like
In silence.
hold music or something.
Okay, music would be kind of-
Yeah, online. Yeah.
Is that a hand up or is it just a?
No, that's just the cursor. No.
Bunch of people.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh,
I was. He
You
magically
don't need a
appeared
quorum.
so now Andy, right? Wasn't there? And then all of a sudden I looked over. and he's just-
You know,
Is there all-
if it's helpful to give a little color as well, in
Sure,
terms
go
of
ahead.
where we're at.
Yeah.
Brian and his team did meet with the tenants. We had a meeting with the tenants in the building. And I'll let-
Yeah, so we met with them 2 weeks ago and explains the process and how we do things and the work that will be done once we close on the property, and they're all very excited. So we got a nice reception from the tenants.
all right. Mrs. Strahushik, please let the record reflect that there were no public comments. So at this time, can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, all in favor? Aye. Right?
Aye.
And at this time, the public hearing is now closed, and I will begin the regularly scheduled proceedings here for the Hudson Industrial Development Agency meeting for June. Mrs. Strahushik, would you please do the honor of roll call?
Heather Campbell. Here. Kamal Johnson.
Present.
Cheryl Kazaluka. Absent. Randall Martin. Absent. Dominic Moranti. Absent. Richard Wallace.
Here.
Brian Wallace.
Present.
You do not have a quorum?
Yeah.
Yes, you do have a.
Yes, we
quorum.
do.
Sorry. I'm looking through my notes and my yeses.
I mean, I know I haven't gotten any, so I'm a little translucent, but I'm here, I
I
promise.
was looking up, I was looking down.
All right, may I please start with a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the May 10th meeting and put them on file?
I so move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to go into executive for this portion?
So this is are you up to the?
Finance committee.
Yeah.
You wanna
Move that to the end.
Yeah, that's okay, yeah.
Okay, sure.
So we're going to switch our schedule around because we're going to have to go into executive session around the finance committee and the bond council RFP result discussion. So I'd like to actually move the Providence Hall and Schuyler Court Apartments discussion up. So we've just had our public hearing, no public comment on that. Project evaluation and discussion. So to start, gentlemen, if you want to have a seat at the table too, and then just, I guess my question for you is, in what I've reviewed thus far, everything looks good, but we are not up to a point where we've got like a financial scope planned out yet, correct? To see like what the long-term like options financing of the deal are.
So we've been working with both Freddie Mac and our tax credit investor.
Okay,
And we could send you guys they call it an app letter, but it's really a structure for the deal.
Yep.
As well as our equity letter from our tax credit investor. So
Okay.
we can provide that to you guys, and that should give you more light. But if we're looking for a 30 mortgage.
Yep.
To extend the regulatory agreement, new 20-year Section 8 contract, and that's generally the structure. But I think sending those letters to you guys.
Okay. Yeah, that was basically my main question, because it comes down to columns at this point for me and whatnot. I mean, I think we've been through, I open it up to the rest of the board members as well. I think we've been through what the proposed improvements are. I think we're all in agreement that they're needed. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's just now trying to get down to obviously seeker, which we'll get to in a minute, and the brass tacks of just what are the financials of the deal look like.
Yeah, and so you're aware too, when you do appoint your bond counsel, they'll be a part of our weekly calls with Freddie and Fannie, so that they can they'll be able to have firsthand knowledge to be able to report back to you too as to where the structure is and what we're doing.
And go ahead, Jessica.
I think we had a couple questions. One is just to get a little clarity on, I think you had mentioned this earlier in an earlier conversation, the total number of units and how many will be held aside for a resident superintendent, just to make sure that we had those numbers correct.
Right,
I think
so-
there was we looked at some of the cities' housing assessment, which gave an inventory, and I just wanted to make sure we had the right number when we look at the ones that are made available to the general public versus the one that's
Right.
one or two reserved.
There's 152 units total, and
That's the one for the internal super, then, right?
one
Because I
for
think
the
the app
Providence
said
and then
151,
one
which is
for
where we
Center Point.
confused.
So out of the 152, two of
It's
those,
150 revenue producing units, and the other two are fours.
Got it.
And those are both one bedrooms in terms of unit mix?
In Providence, yes, it's a one bedroom. I gotta get back to them. So
So, because the unit mix is part of what is identified in the exhibits, if you, you're gonna need to review the draft findings resolution, and I think it would be helpful for the board just to go through the list of findings. And one way to do that would be to look at the action jurisdiction letter, which identifies all of those questions and issues. Do you want to just do that briefly?
Yep.
yeah, that sounds good.
You want
So
to start?
that's probably right about in the middle
Page
of your
5.
packet. It's exactly in the middle if you try and find.
Oh, I know where you are. Okay.
Yeah, they don't like it.
So we'll have a chart in there when you get to it.
Yeah, it's on the back.
Looks like it's the letter to the tax jurisdictions, and then the page of that is going to be the chart showing.
No, it's the one. Richard.
Okay.
If you look at right after the application, the signature page. This letter was sent to the taxing jurisdictions based on the application and the information that was provided in that document.
Do you just want to quickly walk through the findings, the information, and then that leads to the findings that are that would be in the findings resolution.
Yep. So starting on page 2, where it's numbered 1, 2, 3 to, I think it's 12, is it?
Correct.
Down to page
16,
3.
actually.
So the nature of the proposed project, as we talked about, pulling this information from the application, I think you clarified a little bit. It probably might need to clean up that 151 number. And when we look at, I think, Chris, would we put 150 or 152? I'm not sure if it's 150 revenue producing units. I think the number here comes 150. Is that accurate, Chris?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll identify that specifically in the findings resolution. Yep.
This talks about the application for the 20-year HAP contract. Then number 2, the nature of the property, as we all are aware, in the
Tax IDs from public hearing. Yep.
Yep. Economic conditions at the time of the application. This is pulled from some city information, looking at the median income for a household in the city, which I believe may have just been adjusted.
I was gonna say, yeah,
So
can we update this for 2020
Yep.
info? Yeah,
We'll be updating this letter, but for purposes
No,
of
but-
future.
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
use, I think this letter was drafted before I
Right.
come out, and
That's correct.
before the information was updated. So we'll make sure going forward, we use the current update numbers. The project as announced, as outlined in the application, will retain 6 full-time equivalent jobs. And then what we used was, looking at number 5, the MRB calculator, which projects a sales tax exemption of $597,000 and a mortgage recording tax exemption of $200,000. The real property tax exemption was estimated at 3.5, just over 3.5 million. Number 6, this is the project fails to comply with the conditions that will be outlined in the uniform project agreement. There's the provisions that are standard per your uniform tax exempt policy. And then this chart here really outlines the details of the local and the local taxing jurisdictions and the exemptions that would be provided as outlined in the application, what the applicant was requesting. So you can see the breakdowns here. I don't know if we want to talk through any of these. I'll take a moment. Anyone wants to look at them or have any questions related to this?
Well, I do have a question related to the whole proposed term. So proposing 5%, and then 2% escalation, I assume that's not an escalation of the percentage, but an escalation of the fixed amount that's set in the first year. My understanding is that's considerably less than the existing pilot that it's expiring, which I believe is 10% of shelter rents, and they do fixed payments 4 times a year, and then they do a true up based on actual shelter rents at the end of every year.
So you can talk through your pilot. The pilot is, if what you proposed in the application was 5% of the shelter rent.
Right.
And then 2% of the, like, assuming a 2% increase in the rents, right?
Right, so we were, the 5% is also based off of the new income. When our rents increase under the Section 8 contract. So that amount should go higher, even though it's at 5%, not 10%, it should go up just due to the fact that the subsidy number will increase at closing. And then we were doing a 2% escalation in year 11, switching to a 3% escalation. We just thought that was an easier schedule to look at on kind of that escalation as opposed to the unknown of whether we could get rent increases in the future or not, right? So if we under this program, we'll be able to go in for rent increase once every 10 years. So between year 1 and year 10, you'll get your, depending on what it is on that year, your OCAP increase, which is very minimal. It could be 1%, it could be 0.5%, sometimes it's 2%, and that's more of an unknown. So this way we figured, okay, well, if we have this schedule and we escalate it at 2% each year, and bump up the escalation to 3%, everybody at the table will have a better understanding of what the real numbers will be across the 30 years. That's kind of our strategy.
Just making the observation that it would be
Less than what's paid.
considerably less income than what we're currently getting through the existing pilot payment.
So what'll be helpful, I think, is after this discussion, what we could put together is sort of a chart so that you all see those
What it
differences.
looks like, yeah.
And so,
That's where I
we
think I
should
want to
share,
look
yeah.
at that against, like, with the final financing. and whatnot.
Yeah, because I think looking at it, pilot versus non-pilot is not particularly relevant because it already has a pilot. So we're really looking at existing pilot versus
Apples to
pilot
apples.
makes more sense.
Yeah.
And I can pull some numbers for that because I think it would also be interesting to look at the trend in terms of what the income from those 2 properties have been, because I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know, I can tell you that. So basically the way that it works, because the city has a couple other very old pilots on their private housing that work exactly that way. It started with a set number and then it escalates. As I said, the one that Skyler Court of Providence Hall currently has, it's 10% of shelter rents, but the way that it works is each of the two properties has a fixed amount that they pay. So it's a minimum that they pay every year. They pay 4 times a quarter. I don't care about that, but just so you know how it works. And then at the end of the year, they do a calculation based on actual shelter rents. They determine what the difference between what their base payment is and what the actual 10% was, and they pay that, and we call it a true up. So that's how that currently works. So it would be, I think it would be useful for everyone to see not only what that income has been, but how it has gone over the last 5 or 10 years, because I'm pretty confident that the true up has basically increased every year. Whether it increases 2% or more, I don't know. But the net result is 5% versus 10%, and then true up versus 2% escalation.
That's
Those
fair.
are the two main financial differences.
So what we'll do is we'll work with Heather, we'll work with you to come up with sort of the history and then also the projection of
Projected is, yeah.
what it looks like. And that would be helpful, I'm sure. Some
Oh,
other,
wait, I'm sorry, can I just ask one quick question? I'm assuming that there was a schedule here somewhere. I don't remember where it was. Schedule was here somewhere. I'm assuming that is for all 3
for both
taxing
properties,
jurisdictions,
yes.
but for all 3 taxing jurisdictions and both properties combined.
Yes.
You're referring to this schedule, right?
Yes.
It was the pilot schedule in the application.
Yeah.
But the application was subsequently supplemented, was it not, to request a slightly different pilot construction in terms of the legal terms and conditions of that pilot? In other words, this was a fixed payment pilot, which was not what you were requesting. And we'd asked you to clarify that before.
Yeah,
We-
you added this
Yeah.
statement in the beginning, right before that, the page
Right.
before that.
Right. So I just want to remind the board that it's not proposed as a fixed payment pilot, right?
Was proposed fixed payment with a 2% escalation. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, thereafter we
No,
escalate the
it's-
pilot
well-
payments naturally to 2%.
We were
until the end
setting
of
a
year 10.
5% shelter rent at the closing number. The numbers at closing.
Correct.
And then escalating.
And then just
2% every
escalating that
year,
fixed number
and then
2% every year, and then 3% after year 10.
Starting year 11, yeah.
Right.
After year 10, it's the same thing.
That would be 11. High five to Kenny. Thank you.
Right, and I don't,
Very good.
I know, right? Can't remember the other thing, but that I got.
so do you have enough information to
Chart it out.
chart it out the way that you want to do a comparative analysis, Jessica? And I guess with Heather's backup information?
Yeah, I think so. If not, we'll reach out and we'll come up with some good, kind of different views of things.
Okay.
We'll probably reach out for a little bit more clarity and to help with estimating. Going forward, number 8, looking at the impact of the proposed project on the existing and proposed business economic development projects in the vicinity, based on the MRB Group's report. The project is expected to have $4 of benefits to the region for every $1 financial assistance. And this is really assuming that 30% of locally sourced material and labor is used during construction. And I think the 30% was determined based on our last conversation, but we can adjust that if we need to when we come up with a final cost benefit.
But that is an aspirational requirement, not a requirement. Is that correct? An assumption, an aspirational goal. It's not a stated requirement that's proposed to be in the documents.
Best efforts to meet those goals.
Number 9, the amount of private sector investment generated or likely to be generated by the proposed projects is outlined in the application to be just over 23 million.
And we did.
Number 11, the likelihood of accomplishing the project in a timely fashion based on the last meeting where I think you had your engineer and that was present and talked about the timing. And then it was projected to be complete October 2024, all pending, I assume, on when the project actually closes. And, yeah. So, and then also get through your financial assistance with HUD and HCI. The effect of the proposed project on the environment. This is where, following this conversation, we'll take a look at the seeker in the type 2 action. 13, extent to which the project will utilize to the full extent practical, the economic feasibility, resource conservation, energy efficiency, green technologies, and alternative and renewable energy measures. You talked about and had your engineer talk about the improvements that are going to be made to the building. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add here about the windows being replaced. You talked about the new boiler, the envelope, the building envelope.
Energy efficient appliances, new lighting, the siding should help with insulation and whatnot. So
Siding is on Providence,
on
Skyline.
on Skyline.
The extent the project will require additional services such as educational, transportation, police, emergency, or fire services. And really what's outlined here is that it's the preservation of existing housing. So it's not expected that there would be an increase in any demand for additional community services as a result of this project. The extent to which the proposed project will provide additional sources for revenue for municipalities. As I mentioned, the MRB cost benefit calculator came up with the 4 to 1. Once we look at the financial plan and we start looking at that, we'll fine tune that in those cost estimates as well. The exemption estimates. The extent to which the project will provide a benefit not otherwise available within the municipality. I think this goes to it's, preserving the affordable housing in the city and in the critical need for it, and really just ensuring that it's preserved. At or around the project cost, the company proposes signing the new 20-year HAP contract to extend the affordability requirements. So that's outlined there.
And we did in the draft findings of resolution, which will be modified for adoption. Did note that the 2018 housing plan of the city identifies this particular project as preservation being one of the primary goals of the city as stated in that plan, and that this particular project is 30%, almost 30% of the current affordable housing stock. At least that's what is identified in the plan. So it's one of the findings that we've identified in the findings. So I think that's
Anybody?
significant
Yeah.
to recognize. Okay.
Any questions or any kind of conversations, any discussion on those points?
And just then a few other points for purposes of developing findings. The existing structures without tenant displacement, right? That's the plan. And you're going to verify the unit mixes for us. And the affordability requirements. So you've indicated that there would be a 20-year HAP contract, but this is proposed to be a 30-year plan. So the term of the regulatory agreement would be 30 years.
Yes.
And it would be, because you're doing an LAHDC project, the remaining years would be consistent with the LAHDC affordability requirements, or would they would be at 50%?
The affordability requirements, they would be at 60%, but you would still be, the only reason that the HAP contract is out 20 years, not 30, is can't get.
No, I'm aware, but if the HAP contract were not extended, right? So from a what is documentation perspective, if the HAP contract were not extended, the LAHDC agreement would kick in, and that regulatory agreement would be for
60%.
60%.
But I would have to get back to this, but I believe we also would be signing extended use agreement with HUD. That would most likely go past that 20 years. Even though the half contract would be 20 years, the extended use agreement would most likely be 30.
But would that be at 50?
That would be, yes.
So is that?
I have to get back to you on that. I
yeah.
have to speak to HUD council, but I believe that's the case.
Okay, well, I guess the question is what the requirement is gonna be in the agency's documents. And to be consistent with the proposal, is it 50% for the 30-year term, or is it 50% and then 60% at 20 years if the half contract is?
So the HFA, the state's regulatory agreement would be for 60% AMI for the 30 years. We would have additional requirements under HUD. But as far as that regulatory agreement goes, that would be 60% AMI.
So that's what's being proposed. I just want to, so that would be something we would need to reflect in our agreements as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and the completion period, the completion period that is being proposed, what's the maximum completion period?
12-month construction.
But I mean, for purposes of the regulatory requirement, usually there's more of a cushion for.
I would say.
And then recapture, right? So.
I would say probably 18 months.
Okay.
Or do you want to
Well,
say
it's really
12 without-
24 because, but
Correct.
because
but
you've
10
got to get
months.
to closing.
Yeah.
Right? Yep, okay. All right, Jessica, did you have any other items from that set of findings? All right.
Nope, that was it.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Jess, anything else to add?
Just, did you want to consider, or Alex, is there any reason to do the secret resolution today, or are we able to just do both of those at the same time at the next meeting?
Yeah, I prefer if we can group them this way. We've got, and then that'll give you guys time to get in with the financial stuff, and then 1, 2, and then we can get everything together for you, and then hopefully take a next step toward getting it done. That works. Okay.
Do you have kind of an estimated
Do I
based
need a
on
motion?
your conversations about the financing when we would get the financing planned? So I'm just thinking about the months, right? We're a little bit off on this one because this is a special meeting.
Right.
So our next meeting is the first week of July.
It is-
Oh, and then it's 5th of July. So we might be a 1 month
Right.
from this, but I'm just curious timing.
So we've been having weekly calls with both our lender and our investor. They're very, very eager for bond counsel to join because we have a general structure. And, I don't know if you were just going I was talking about this, but we have financing letters we can share with you guys on structure.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
Oh, so you can share those now.
Yeah.
as draft.
Perfect.
Please get that to Jessica.
Yep.
All right, so we'll hold on the secret until the next meeting. And got one more thing before we're going to executive session. Gentlemen, you're welcome to stay if you would like. Otherwise, I think that's the conclusion of our business on this project for today. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
We can text you this.
I was just gonna ask.
Results
Yeah,
of
the
the bond
results.
counsel.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, before we go into executive session, I'd like to just get over to the CLC proposed regarding North Bay update. Did we,
Jessica and I spent considerable time reviewing survey data and needs. Meeting with Dan Russell at Crawford Associates on Friday morning. I did invite Troy Weldon to join us. Yeah, Weldy to join us. And, there are a lot of different indications on the map as to who owns what and where.
Right.
And there are some dotted lines that would normally be solid lines if they were truly dividing parcels. But Dan's been very gracious. He did this map in 2008.
6, I think,
6.
2006.
so are you gonna go in person?
Yeah, we're gonna go to his office because.
Oh, to his office, not, okay.
Yeah, because,
We need to
We
really
figured it-
dive into the maps
Yeah.
and make more.
if he comes here, I said, Dan, we'll just come to you because the maps are at your office. If we get here,
Yeah.
we need another map. We're out of luck. So he's only over here at Flanders.
Can we ask him to provide, if he's got the ability, just a digital resource for the next meeting then, so everybody can see what you guys will.
Yeah, we'll get it printed back. And I think the real question that I had was based on where it said property owned by the city of Hudson.
Correct,
And Troy had given a hypothetical swap,
which we didn't know if it's
and that's
connecting
on,
into either A, the dump, or B, the fire zone.
well, it looks like it hits the city, the IDA, the school district, and the fire
Yeah.
home. So, and if that was just because he needed, some firm needed to give a conceptual idea that there would be a
Right.
continuous trail, we just want to make sure that.
We have the right,
Yeah. And the main
And also
purpose.
before we transfer the land, that we understand what he's proposing is
Right.
something that can be executed.
well, I was
You're
gonna say,
making that as, you know.
well, yeah, ours is the first right to return if they ever decide to sell or develop it, but the second is, and just to confirm, we're not spending our resources, they need to go and talk to the other owners about getting an egress, correct?
And if they needed to get maps printed or surveys done,
Good, okay,
But Jessica and I did look extensively to see, across from where the, I call it the Horshorn Valley sauerkraut place is in the green now.
yeah,
Across from there is a parcel that's equal size that could be developed, but if that's where he wants to put the trail, that's one thing. But
Right.
if he wants to put the trail behind all of those buildings, it might be that you want to carve that out for future development.
that makes sense.
We've got a,
Will his maps show public utility out there too? So if you're talking about like something's
Yeah,
developable
I don't
out
think
there, I don't know
so.
if there's,
I
because
think
the
it-
one hydrant only goes as far as like where the creek runs
but
under the
Rob
road and
Murray
then it
can
stops.
Tell us where
Yeah.
that is.
Okay.
I don't think he did that, any of that work. It was basically taking, it looked like 5 different
Survey.
businesses that went out of business and aggregated it.
Okay.
Because there were several factories and different manufacturing facilities down in there.
So what we get is a good picture of
What we have.
what we have, sort of the scenario compared to what he's proposing.
And then can review that at the next meeting, and then after that will be the appraisal process of.
Well, what we've done, I did speak with 2 appraisers, and they are, we believe, their recommendation is that they can't really appraise this because there's no comps of underwater land, other than an appraisal that someone would do so they could donate it to, Hudson, one of the river, save the river or something. So they're recommending that they do a opinion letter, a real estate appraisal opinion letter. We also have prepared a draft letter that complies with the ABO standard. And, while your policy does say an appraisal, it's not a capital A. Doesn't say it doesn't say it has to be an MAI appraisal. It doesn't say, and an opinion letter, we believe the ABO will accept because even if the land came in at $1 million, if we believe the ABO would allow you to give it to $1 because of the public purpose and the benefit that you're looking at, but it's only it's on our books for 40,
Right.
and it's on the city assessment roll for 250. So, but, the appraiser said they wouldn't take $3,000 from us to do an appraisal for something they couldn't really give you a
Got it.
reasonable
Well,
justification
wasn't the
for.
question that was asked, though, whether any of the property that was proposed to be conveyed was developable?
That's
Right,
why
but
we're,
that's
that's
why
what we're
we
going
do
through this
maps.
mapping.
Okay.
Right.
And that's
If
where
we're
it's
still-
developable,
we should hold
then
Then we
it's
should-
appraisal
Yeah.
Correct.
available for that. Okay.
But when I looked at the thing out of the proposal that Troy gave us, that could easily have been conceptual for a public presentation.
Yep.
And if you can show us exactly where it is.
We may end up wearing the appropriate ribbon this time, going on a walk.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
But I can imagine part of it is gonna be, it depends, because
Yeah.
here's our ideal thing, but they'd have to get.
Oh,
That's
from the
exactly,
departments,
that's where,
yeah.
that's
Get
where
the
we're
school
not doing the.
district. Yeah, that's why I thought that-
Everybody else.
'Cause-
But we could write a letter of, hey, we're looking to do this, and if you were open to it too, this is the benefit
Because-
for everybody.
Because the other side of this is where here's the only developable parcel that we could see.
You're thinking this,
Would be along the road.
right, it's the west side of the road, right after you cross the gully. Yeah, that.
Right where the
that's-
Empire Rail Trail sign is,
Correct.
So,
Where he wants to connect.
Yeah.
right? That's the
Yeah.
whole point of connecting.
and so that's, it was confusing to me as to why the fancy presentation diagram showed it behind
Which
us.
is, but that's where I support Chris's point is, it's like, if that is developable, I mean, we should not.
And on the flip side, if at the top of the hill behind where this fancy diagram shows, if that's developable, we need to understand that it's accessible by going across city property, if in fact the legend on the map shows that it is accessible.
Yep.
So, but we're making progress.
Perfect. All right, on to our last, I need a motion and a second to go into executive session so we can discuss the finance committee report on the bond council RFP results.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
So, Riley, you wanna,
And we're back.
We're back, Linda.
All right, we have come out of the executive session to discuss the bond council RFP results. No decisions were made. On that, I'd like to turn it over to Heather to make the recommendation, please.
On behalf of the Finance Committee, we would like to recommend that Hudson IPA engage Barclay Bayman as bond counsel for a period of 2 years. So not project specific, but a 2-year period. So if there are other projects, we have them on board, which was what the RFP request was.
All right, so can I have a motion in a second?
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Mrs. Jahushek, roll call vote, please.
Campbell,
Aye.
Paul Johnson,
Aye.
Cheryl Kazaluka, absent. Randall Martin, absent. Dominic Maria, absent. Richard Wallace,
Aye.
Brian Wallace.
Aye. I'd like to now open up the line to Ms. Spanoff for public comment.
Right when she had it.
I mean, you know, I'm just helping you out, Linda, that's all. Yep. All right, since there are no members of the public present or online, I have a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Productive one.
Happy Flag Day.
Oh, it is. Happy Flag Day. Yes, actual Flag Day.